if you're doing this one thing, it doesn't absolutely sound like someone who is building a healthy, loving relationship with themselves, honoring themselves, their own needs, their own boundaries, and respecting themselves. And if that's what self-love is about, you are not doing that if you are doing this one thing. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sweet and Savage Show and another episode of the Art of Practicing Self-Love series. Majority of the people think they're loving themselves, but are actually not loving themselves because they are doing this one thing. I wish someone told me the fact that if you're doing this one thing, you are not loving yourself. At the beginning of my self-love journey, I thought that I was loving myself, as in I was loving myself unconditionally. I was building a healthy, loving relationship with myself. I was showing up for myself and prioritizing my own needs. I was validating my own emotions. I was being my own biggest cheerleader, so on and so forth. And now looking back, I wasn't loving myself because I was doing that one thing. Because I didn't understand the true meaning of self-love, everything that fits into the category of you learning how to love yourself. And that one thing is that I was betraying myself and I didn't even know about that. Because self-love is not self-betrayal. And if you're betraying yourself, I'm sorry to give you this bad news, but you are not loving yourself. The good news is everything that you've learned about self-love has not gone to vain, because self-love is you building a healthy, loving relationship with yourself. And part of that is you forgiving yourself now and being your own best friend and realizing I was trying to do the best that I can, but now that I know better, I can do better. And you now learning from that mistake and growing and stop betraying yourself and being proud of yourself, of the fact that you've now taken that step. And it's that relationship with yourself that you've built, which is part of you loving yourself as well. Part of you learning how to work with yourself in a healthy way, work through your mistakes in a healthy way, and showing yourself patience and grace and compassion. However, yes, you heard me right. Self-love is not self-betrayal. If you want to love yourself, you need to stop betraying yourself. It goes against what self-love means, what self-love stands for. If you're asking me, Lamisha, what does betraying yourself mean? Let me share with you what self-betrayal actually means. So betraying yourself means to be the person that other people want you to be, to put what they want from you in the first place. Because if you're suppressing yourself, you are betraying yourself by saying, I don't deserve to be my own person. I don't deserve to express how I want to express myself. I don't deserve to express my own truth. I don't deserve to have my own beliefs. I don't deserve to have my own values and express them. I don't deserve to live life for myself. I don't deserve to have my own needs. I don't deserve to have my own emotions, my own thoughts and beliefs. I don't deserve to express myself fully. I don't deserve to shine my own light. I don't deserve to step into my power. I don't deserve to be my own person, to have my own needs, to have my own values and beliefs. I should just suppress them, ignore them, avoid them to please other people. And people pleasers and codependents have betrayed themselves up until this point. In case you are a people pleaser or a codependent. And you are betraying your own trust every time you are doing something that you don't want to do, when you are saying yes to other people and you are saying no to yourself and what you want and your desires and your needs and your beliefs and values. You are betraying yourself. Betraying yourself simply means not honoring yourself, going against how you feel, going against what you want to do, going against your boundaries, your values, the things that you stand for. And by you pushing that aside, ignoring that, avoiding that, suppressing that in order to please someone else, by abandoning yourself, and thus by you betraying yourself by doing all of these things. Because you don't want to disappoint your parents or the people around you, because you don't want to offend your auntie or uncle by doing something, you are betraying yourself. Hating yourself is a form of self-betrayal, and it's a huge one, next to you molding yourself to be who everyone wants you to be, as in you being a people pleaser or a codependent. Self-hate is a huge form of self-betrayal. The word betrayal, when someone cheats on you or betrays your trust by doing something bad, we often say that person turned their back on me. You are turning your back on yourself by hating yourself. You are telling yourself that how you feel doesn't matter, who you are doesn't matter, your needs doesn't matter, while standing in front of the mirror and looking at yourself and saying all of these messed up negative things to yourself. You don't care about yourself. How you feel does not matter. Who you are does not matter. It doesn't matter the fact that you are treating yourself like garbage. Who cares about you? Nobody cares about you. You don't matter. You suck. I hate you. Look at you. You are turning your back on yourself. The person that needs you the most. You are turning your back on the most important relationship that you have in your life, which is the one with yourself. And you are telling yourself, I don't care about you. You don't matter. I don't love you. I don't need you. I don't give a flying F if I treat you like crap. You are constantly hurting yourself, disrespecting yourself by treating yourself like garbage. It feels like you have abandoned yourself. It is as if you have given up on yourself, on the most important person in your life, because you need yourself, because all these aspects of yourself inside of you, they need you. They need your validation. They need your acceptance. They need your love. Just like your inner child. And by you hating yourself, disliking yourself, and treating yourself like garbage is you betraying yourself, is you abandoning yourself. You have given up on yourself. And that to me is first and foremost a huge form of self-betrayal. Just like you molding yourself to be who everyone wants you to be. Every time you treat yourself like garbage, you are turning your back on yourself. Just by you experiencing emotional neglect or abuse in your childhood, your parents abandoned you when they emotionally neglected you. Whether that was active or passive, you grew up with that abandonment wound, and you are doing the same thing to yourself by having this toxic relationship with yourself. By neglecting yourself, abandoning yourself, and betraying yourself, turning your back on yourself. And it's not just by you hating yourself that you are turning your back on the most important person in your life. By molding yourself to be who everyone wants you to be, you are also doing the same thing. You are turning your back on yourself every time you betray yourself. By the way, I filmed this video from the perspective that everyone who clicked on it is already on their self-love journey and has stopped hating themselves. That's the reason why I didn't talk about self-hate as a form of self-betrayal at first, when I first explained what self-betrayal means. But of course, I wanted to include this part because I need you to know this. Honestly, I hope you have started your self-love journey and you have stopped hating yourself. If not, well, now you know. By hating yourself, you are betraying yourself. This is what self-betrayal means and looks like. By the way, I've hated myself in the past as well. I had a toxic relationship with myself in the past. Now I have healed from codependency and stopped betraying myself in that way. So you're not alone. And so if I can learn how to love myself and build a healthy, loving relationship with myself, then so can you. Now let me give you examples from my own story about what betraying yourself actually means and what self-betrayal looks like in many scenarios, so that you can better understand what self-betrayal actually is. Because I betrayed myself ever since I was a child up until I was 16 years old. So I got a lot of examples to share with you, sweetheart, so buckle up. Just like I mentioned before, part of betraying yourself is you not allowing yourself to be your own person, to not be your own authentic self. Being your authentic self, you have your own beliefs, your own values, your own likes and dislikes, your own emotions, your own way of doing things, your way of expressing yourself, and that includes in the way that you choose to express yourself through your style, as well as the hobbies that you have. And I can tell you this from my own example, because when I was a child, I loved dancing, and I danced literally all the time. That was kind of like my hobby. However, instead of me studying and dancing at the same time, I was taught to only focus on studying instead, to be serious, quote unquote, and to focus on getting the perfect grades and to make my parents proud. And me suppressing my desire to dance, me suppressing the very thing that brought so much joy and so much passion and so much fun into my life, was me betraying myself. I mean, I was taught to betray myself because dancing was a big part of myself when I was a child. And that was me betraying myself by suppressing this aspect of myself growing up because I was taught it is not important. This aspect of yourself is not important. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to self-betrayal. But this is a clear definition of you betraying yourself. I also grew up being a codependent, which when you are a codependent, you don't have a sense of self. So there it went. My last bits of me having part of my authenticity being thrown out the window because that was part of me being my authentic self. But I didn't get to do that. I grew up with having no sense of self, no beliefs of my own, no values of my own. I molded myself to be what my parents wanted me to be. Basically a chameleon, and everywhere I went, I just molded myself to be what everyone else wanted me to be. That is another clearest definition of you betraying yourself. Because you're telling yourself, again, I don't deserve to be my authentic self. I don't even deserve to express how I truly feel because I was told that I shouldn't express my anger. Boundaries? What do you mean boundaries? I literally felt like I couldn't even have my own boundaries. And by that, I couldn't express my truth, which is a big part of you being your authentic self. And I also couldn't have my own beliefs and values because I've experienced religious abuse. So of course, I had no choice but to conform. I did all of those things, but I remember how I felt like I absolutely didn't want to do those things. Of course, that went against what I wanted to do. Of course, growing up, part of being a Muslim means dressing conservatively. And growing up when I was like 13, 14 years old or something. And my style was based on what my mom wanted me to wear and what she liked and what she didn't approve of. And that is a big sign of self-betrayal because I am telling myself, I don't deserve to express myself the way that I want to. I don't want to wear this, but I am doing this because I don't want to offend my parents, because I want to be liked by my parents. So I am doing that, even though I absolutely do not want to wear this, even though that goes against my style, even though that goes against my way of expressing myself. But I am going to ignore myself and absolutely suppress how I feel and my own needs and my own way of doing things and myself as a person by pleasing my parents. That is a clear sign of self-betrayal. After me experiencing a spiritual awakening, and realizing all the ways that all of the beliefs and concepts from Islam didn't resonate with me, and I didn't agree with that. And I realized the fact that me staying in this religion would be absolutely me betraying myself, going against what I stand for, what I valued, and my own beliefs, and my own self, and my choices, and my way of doing things, and me being my authentic self. And that is not self-love. That is absolutely not self-love. Because if you were to love yourself, which self-love means the highest form of respect and love for yourself, listening to yourself, honoring your own needs, your own boundaries, and being your unapologetic self, and having your own beliefs and values, because self-love is I deserve to be my own person. Self-love is I deserve to have my own needs, my own boundaries, my own values, my own beliefs. I deserve to be myself unapologetically, and I am lovable for being my unapologetic self, for being my authentic self. Self-love, accepting and embracing and loving who I am. That's what self-love is about. But if you're betraying yourself, going against who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, what you value, what your boundaries are, you are absolutely throwing the true definition of self-love out the window. And all these choices that you make by honoring, respecting your boundaries, your needs, your values, your beliefs, which are a reflection of you accepting, embracing, and loving yourself and respecting yourself. Which, of course, I'm an ex-Muslim now. And I stopped betraying myself by being an ex-Muslim. I stopped betraying myself by ditching purity culture, by no longer wearing the clothes that my mom wants me to wear. I deserve to be my own person. I deserve to express myself the way that I want to through my style. Another example that I can give you, which is a clear sign of self-betrayal, which is you doing what other people want you to do for your life. Choosing a career path that you don't want to walk down towards. Choosing a career path that your parents want you to follow. That is a clear sign of self-betrayal. You are going against your needs, your desires, your values, and your beliefs by doing what your parents want you to do, which is to become a doctor. Or you are going to college even though you don't want to go to college. The fact that I deserve to live my life in the way that I want to, but no, I'm gonna suppress that. I'm gonna push this down. I'm gonna avoid this. I'm gonna completely forget about myself and my own needs and my own desires. And I'm going to do what my parents want me to do, and I'm going to please them. This is another clear sign of self-betrayal. I stopped betraying myself by listening to myself and what I want to do with my own life and the career path that I want to pick. And I did that unapologetically instead of picking a career path that my family members want me to pick. Instead of making decisions that they want me to make. I stopped betraying myself by doing that. And you can stop betraying yourself by doing that as well. You need to cater this to your situation. Look, as an artist, I am here to express my truth unapologetically. And if I try to sugarcoat and change my own opinion to please you, then I will be betraying myself. This is something else that I've realized, which is also part of you betraying yourself. Because you're telling yourself that my truth doesn't matter. I am suppressing how I feel and my opinion, my truth, and what matters to me, and how is it that I truly feel, and I am ignoring that, I am suppressing that in order to please you. So that would be me betraying myself. And I'm not going to do that. And I know this is a hard pill to swallow because so many people are betraying themselves by doing what their parents want them to do, by going to college even though they don't want to go to college, by marrying at a time when they don't want to marry. And this is another example of self-betrayal, which is you feeling pressured and then making that choice to get married at a time, at a place, at an age where you don't want to get married. It goes against what you want to do. It goes against your values, your way of you living your life at your own pace. And you are telling yourself, I don't want to do this, but yeah, I'm going to do this because, my parents are telling me this. Or, I am like 27 and my parents are pressuring me to do this. Might as well just go along with whatever my parents tells me to do because, how I feel doesn't matter. My choice doesn't matter. My boundary doesn't matter. And you are disrespecting yourself. You are betraying yourself, your own trust by doing that. But of course, so many people are doing this. You see, sometimes practicing self-love requires you to make certain hard decisions, by you pissing certain people off, by choosing yourself. Yes, self-love can be as easy as you going in front of the mirror and practicing positive affirmations, and you showing up for yourself, meeting your own needs, being your biggest cheerleader, you believing in yourself. Practicing self-love is easy most of the time. However, people don't talk about those hard decisions that you need to make by you choosing yourself and choosing not to betray yourself, and thus by you disappointing and offending the people around you. But this is what practicing true self-love looks like. It is not all sunshine and rainbows all the time. It is you sometimes facing uncomfortable truths about yourself and other people and making certain decisions that feel a little bit uncomfortable. You cannot love yourself if you do not honor, respect. How is it that you are feeling your own boundaries, your beliefs, your values? How is it that you want to live your life? How is it that you want to express yourself? And suppressing yourself, abandoning yourself, you can never love yourself if you do those things. My boundaries matter. My feelings matter. And you prioritize being your most unapologetic, authentic version of yourself. And I know the fact that as someone who loves themselves, that if I piss certain people off by being my authentic self, by being my unapologetic version of myself, by setting boundaries, by speaking my truth, by standing up for myself, then that is absolutely not my problem. This is other people's problem, not mine. Because I didn't came here to please you. I didn't came here to abandon myself, to neglect myself, to betray myself. I didn't came here to live life for you. I came here to live life for myself. And I deserve to do that. And I am lovable for being my authentic self. I don't need to please you in order to be lovable. I am lovable for respecting myself, my own needs, my own values, my own beliefs. And if you do not respect and love me for me, bye. Bye-bye. You're not for me. And that includes family members. Because I'm not gonna betray myself in order for you to like me, in order for you to love me. I am lovable for who I am and not for what I do. And if you tell me that I need to do certain things, I need to pick this career path in order to be lovable by my parents, then your parents never loved you unconditionally. They love you conditionally. And if people get disappointed, offended by you setting boundaries, standing up for yourself, then those are the people that benefited you from being a people pleaser, from being a codependent in the first place, from you betraying yourself and your own needs, your own values, your own beliefs, from you being a doormat. And so many people don't want to face this truth. But on your self-love journey, my friend, you're going to have to face this truth. Because otherwise, you're never going to learn how to truly love yourself and what true self-love actually means. But the truth is, people don't want to accept and acknowledge certain truths because they don't want their illusions to be shattered. One of my favorite quotes from Nietzsche, what feels painful is not you seeing the truth, it is the fact that you thought that your parents loved you unconditionally. You thought that your family members loved you for being your authentic self. Until you make a decision that they absolutely don't like, that's when you see people's true colors. And because you were in this bubble of illusion, thinking that your parents or people around you loved you for you, and then you realize, oh, that's absolutely not true. They liked me when I was their puppet. They liked me only when I did X, Y, Z things. They liked me only when I was betraying myself. When I was a people pleaser, when I was a codependent. They liked me better when I was a doormat. But they don't love me for me. They don't love who I am, my authentic self. And that can feel painful at first because you've been living an illusion this whole time. It may hurt at first to realize the fact that the people that you wanted to be loved by don't love you for you. But I respect myself. But I deserve to be my own person. I deserve to have my own beliefs, my own values, my own needs, my own emotions, my own boundaries. I deserve to speak my truth. I deserve to express myself the way that I want to, live my life the way that I want to. And I am so lovable for just being myself. I am so worthy to be loved for just being myself. And when you truly understand that, when you embody that, you don't care about their opinions of you. You don't care whoever is gossiping about you. You don't care whether someone is offended or disappointed by you setting a boundary and saying no. Because your most important priority of you learning how to love yourself is you respecting yourself and your own boundaries, honoring how you feel, and staying true to yourself. My most important priority is to be my most unapologetic version of myself. And anything else, nothing else matters other than that. I will never betray myself. If you love yourself, you don't betray yourself. And guess what? When I became an ex-Muslim, I received backlash. I was called all sorts of things for being an ex-Muslim by my toxic family members. And I stood my ground, and I stood up for myself, and I spoke my truth. And I stayed true to myself, regardless of that. Because that's what someone who accepts, embraces, and loves themselves and respects themselves does. They don't betray themselves. They don't abandon themselves. They don't neglect themselves. They don't betray their own trust. Something else which is also part of you betraying yourself, which is changing yourself or changing how you feel towards something or changing your opinions and your truth a little bit just so that people will like you more, just so that you won't disappoint or offend someone else. This is another way a lot of people betray themselves. And so you changing yourself or changing what you like or changing your opinions so that people will like you more is you betraying yourself. And codependents and people pleasers do this all the time. They will change themselves, kind of mold themselves when they're around a specific person. They will change their opinion a little bit because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be called all sorts of things, or they don't want to disappoint or offend someone else. And that is you betraying yourself. This can be very overlooked, but it goes back to the exact same thing that I talked about. You going against how is it that you feel. Suppressing your authentic self is you betraying yourself. Now, there is something very important that I also want to share and that I want you to keep in mind as you go along on your self-love journey, which is the fact that, as I've mentioned throughout this video, the fact that saying no to yourself and saying yes to other people all the time and neglecting yourself and abandoning yourself and neglecting your own needs is you betraying yourself. And that is true. As well as, just like I mentioned, you hating yourself, treating yourself like garbage is you betraying yourself as well. I, for example, as I've shared in this video, betrayed myself completely ever since I was a child up until a certain point because I molded myself to be what everyone else wanted me to be. And as well as I was part of a religion that I didn't want to be, had beliefs and values that I didn't want it to have. And of course, I hated myself and had a toxic relationship with myself. For example, you watch this video and you look around and you ask yourself, am I being my authentic self? And you realize, oh, no, I'm not. And you start being your most unapologetic, authentic version of yourself. And you start to express how is it that you truly feel. And you start to speak your truth. And you start to set boundaries and stand up for yourself. And you start to have your own values, your own beliefs, regardless of what your family members tell you or even if they judge you or call you all sorts of things, and you express yourself unapologetically, however, whichever way that you desire. Basically, you stopped being a codependent and a people pleaser, and along with all of these things that I've just mentioned. Now, after you making all of these changes, and you stop betraying yourself on so many levels, and now you making a mistake, as you are learning to set boundaries, doesn't mean that you should beat yourself up and judge yourself harshly just because you made a mistake in saying yes when you wanted to say no. Because I can tell you this from my own experience. At the beginning of my self-love journey, where I was learning how to set boundaries and stand up for yourself, I made mistakes, and that is completely okay, and that is normal, and you will make mistakes as well. Yes, even if you tell yourself, yes, this is the new identity of me stepping into the person who sets boundaries, who stands up for themselves, who speaks their truth. Even if you have stepped into this identity, maybe you will make 2 mistakes in 4 months when it comes to you learning how to set boundaries. And that is okay. And I don't want you to beat yourself up. And sometimes the reason why you will make mistakes is because maybe you have not prepared yourself for a conversation, for a situation, and you didn't know how to act. You didn't know how to set a boundary. And that happened to me even multiple times in the past. So I absolutely don't want you to beat yourself up or judge yourself harshly for saying yes when you wanted to say no. Like, for example, in the past, I didn't even know that in certain situations I could actually set a boundary. And I'll go deeper into that in another video. Because something that a lot of people don't know, boundaries require preparation. For example, I'm not used to being around my relatives or talking to them, which is why I haven't had to set any boundaries in that setting. Within my own environment, within my toxic family, I have gotten really good at setting boundaries, standing up for myself. As for example, I wanted to talk to my grandma. I was talking to my grandma and she handed the phone to my uncle whom I didn't want to talk to. And I said yes. And I ended up having a conversation with him. Even as someone who has learned how to set boundaries, say no, stand up for myself and speak my truth, and I have learned how to do that pretty amazingly and well, I made this mistake. Even though I am so good at setting boundaries, speaking my truth, and standing up for myself. And it caught me off guard, and I wasn't prepared for a situation like this. And so what did I do? I learned from this mistake the fact that next time, if this exact situation happens, I know exactly what to say, and I forgave myself, and I showed myself compassion, patience, and grace, and now I'm proud of myself, the fact that I learned from my mistake. That's what I encourage you to do, because that's exactly what I do. And last but not least, you are a human being and you will make a mistake. And I am not perfect. Nobody is perfect. It is you learning from that mistake, growing as a person, forgiving yourself. But that's the best that we can do, is try to be our ideal version of ourselves. Other than doing my best, I cannot do more. You can only do the best that you can with the knowledge that you have right now. When you know better, you can do better. And this is something that I want people to know, is the fact that we are all trying to do the best that we can at every single moment. Keeping in mind the fact that just because you made a small mistake doesn't mean the fact that all of the other things that you have learned up until this point and all of your progress is wiped out. Like all of the ways that you have stopped betraying yourself. Like, no, that is a very damaging way to think about your progress, because your self-love journey is not black and white. Imagine you going to the gym every single day, not missing a day, and you missed one day in a month. Does that mean that all of your gains completely disappeared? All of the ways that you have strengthened your muscles disappeared? Like, absolutely no. You see, that's the way that I want you to think about your journey, your progress. You learning how to build a healthy, loving relationship with yourself is you learning to love yourself unconditionally. And what do we do when we love ourselves unconditionally? It is love without conditions. Regardless of where I am right now, regardless of what kind of things that I am trying to get good at, I am worthy of receiving love from myself. I am worthy of giving love and validation and praise towards myself right here, right now, without any conditions. And I'm going to be talking about that more in another video, but that's exactly what you do on your self-love journey. Just because you made a small mistake doesn't mean that you don't deserve to love yourself unconditionally. Give yourself that love, validation. Like, no. And you learning how to build a healthy, loving relationship with yourself is you telling yourself that, hey, I'm going to be my own best friend and we are in this together and we are going to learn and grow together. And as long as I'm with you, I'm going to support you all the way. And I'm going to help you get back up and learn from your mistakes and grow from them. And I'm going to practice self-compassion and grace and patience with myself. And no matter what happens, I'm always going to be there with you. Saying that in front of the mirror. That is you learning how to build a healthy, loving relationship with yourself. Forgive yourself because you didn't know the fact that you were betraying yourself in certain ways, or you didn't know that much about self-betrayal. You didn't hear some other, content creators when they talk about self-love, talk about self-betrayal. I forgave myself for not knowing any better, for the fact that I was betraying myself in certain ways. And it's important to be your own best friend and tell yourself that, hey, it's okay, but everything that I've learned about self-love isn't vanished just because I have betrayed myself. I can still use everything that I've learned up until this point to my advantage and for my self-love journey by not judging myself harshly, by not beating myself up. Everything that you have learned up until this point about self-love is now going to help you to forgive yourself and tell yourself that, hey, let's be honest with ourselves and stop betraying ourselves in these ways and learn from that, so that we will never betray ourselves anymore. Which is the reason why I don't want you to see your self-love journey as in a black and white way. The phrase, healing isn't linear. Probably sure you've heard about this. Sometimes you take 5 steps forward and 3 steps back. And so sometimes you're going to learn that, oh, I thought I was doing something right, but I guess I wasn't. So let me correct myself. And this is the way that you do things the right way. However, just like I said, you shouldn't see your self-love journey in a black and white way. I still wanted to come here and tell you the truth about the fact that self-love is not self-betrayal, because otherwise you are going to keep betraying yourself. Otherwise you are going to keep acting like a people pleaser or a codependent and betraying yourself here and there and not even realizing the fact that you are not honoring yourself, you're not respecting yourself, you're not listening to yourself, you are betraying your own trust, and you are abandoning yourself, and you are neglecting yourself and your own needs. So if I don't tell you this, you're never going to learn. And the sooner you realize about this, the better. The sooner you can forgive yourself and learn from your mistakes and stop betraying yourself. No matter what kind of mistakes I've made, I will always be there for myself, to help myself, to learn how to work with myself and not against myself. Now that is going to always help you, regardless of what kind of mistakes that you will make, whether on your self-love journey or just in life. And being proud of yourself for taking that step towards you taking responsibility to stop betraying yourself is also part of you practicing self-love. I would really love to know your takeaways and aha moments from this video, so leave it in the comments down below. I would really love to know that. If you found this video really helpful, then you're absolutely going to find this video that I've linked in the description box down below even more helpful, which is choosing yourself is a daily practice. Self-love is in the choices that you make every single day. I highly recommend you watch that video, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Art of Practicing Self-Love series. Bye.